welcome to Get Celebritized. I'm Aurea McGarry, your host, where I bring to you fascinating people every single week to help you earn more, live a big, audacious, juicy legacy life, and be able to give back more to the causes and charities and people that matter most to you. And today, I'm extremely excited to bring you someone who I've known for probably maybe a year, 2 years or so, but have never met actually in person. But we have gotten to know each other on an audio app. And I'm going to bring him up to the stage now because he is so magnificent. Wait till you hear about him. Randall Jones. Okay, get ready. He is a keynote speaker. He's a podcaster, an author, a modern day Renaissance man, and a master storyteller. He has worked and interviewed and become friends with some of the world's most fascinating people, such as Erin Brockovich, Barbara Corcoran, Hoda from the Today Show, Brian Boitano, personal favorite of mine as I'm an ice skater, Susie Orman, Shirley Jones, Vanessa Williams, and the list goes on. Though Randy wears many hats, he has expertise in the art of storytelling. He's garnered the most notice by doing that. Every human being in every business has a story to tell, he says, and the audience, they need to hear that story. Randy helps individuals and businesses develop their most compelling stories for the online and traditional media best suited to deliver their message. He is so much more than even what I just said, so I'm going to bring him up right now. You are about to meet the phenomenal, the exciting, my friend, Randall Jones. Come up to the stage.
I'm feeling so celebritized. Being here, I mean, I have celebritized goosebumps. Hello, my dear. How are you?
You are amazing. We've been talking.
Introduce me better than anybody ever. Oh my God, I'm going to take you on the road. I mean,
be my pleasure. We should take this on the road. We'd have a great time.
You know, that's really is. You know, let me point one thing out. Things that come out as a joke in a conversation, pay attention to them.
Seriously.
Because that actually really is a good idea. That
it really is.
The things you joke about, so often there's truth in that joke and that remark that you made. And it's happened to me time and time again. So I joke a lot. So
well, it's funny. It may not have just been coincidence that we've been on the Clubhouse app right after each other for so many months now and just kind of already a team. And you really are fascinating, Randall, because I've been in the show business world forever, being born and raised in New York City and going to, the acting schools and doing soap operas. And I've just always loved show business. I've always loved TV. And here you came along into my space in this audio app, knowing and working with the most fascinating people. And it just piqued my interest. How did you meet these people and how does it tie in to your career? So let's talk about what you do, Randall. And then we'll talk about a little bit more about how these people tie into your legacy.
Well, I tell stories, and when I use the word storyteller, I'm using it. I can tell you any number of stories right here, right now, of things that have happened to me in my life and what I learned from that. I believe in living in the moment. I believe in listening. I believe in being present. I believe in paying attention. I believe in evaluating things that happen in our lives and what can we extract from those activities. I believe in lifelong learning. Yeah. So, but I'm a storyteller, but that is me on stage because I'm a keynote. That is me here because we can have a 3-hour show and I wouldn't run out of stories. You know that.
That is for sure. I've known you for months. You still have never run out of stories.
But the stories that you want to tell about yourself, about your organization, about your nonprofit, about your business, those stories have to be engaging. They have to mean something. They have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's my expertise, is finding the right way to tell the story about you or your organization in a way that's compelling and telling it on the media that's going to be most receptive to your message. And that's what I've done pretty much my entire life.
So did you start out, is your business, I know you just have this wonderful eclectic business in life. Did you start out as a publicist or a brander or a marketer? Because you do tell other people's stories so incredibly well.
I started out as an actor.
Oh, well, there you go. No wonder we get along.
Oh, we have that in common. But then I also did professional improv for 10 years.
Nice.
And that has a whole lot to do with the storytelling because you have to learn it. I don't do stand up, though. People, I mean, my keynotes, frankly, are stand up. It's the same, the
I can
same
imagine.
rules apply. You have to learn how to tell the joke and how to hit the punchline. So,
Right.
I really did. I've been in sales all of my life. I've always been in media. Uh, but I'm most known for the creative side, my creative thought process, which
Mhm.
guides the storytelling and guides the acting and guides the creativity. And improv, Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway has I interviewed him for my first book. The basic tenet of improv is whatever is said to you, you respond with yes and it works in life. Yes, and accepting what you just heard, that idea, that thought, that suggestion, and adding to it and making it even better. That applies. Yes, and is something that I live to the extent that I can. So if my husband said, let's go rob a bank, I would say, yes, and let's look and see how we look in orange because we'll get arrested. I mean,
Good.
you can't agree to everything, but
Oh, that's so cool. Now, was your first book, was that the Show Me book or was that the Ruby book?
the first book was, you know what? And I happen to have it here.
Look
How
at that.
clever am I? Was
Look at
Shelby named? What happened to me is very quickly. I was in Naples, Florida. I went to the Naples Daily News and I said, "There's all these wildly successful people here. Does anybody talk to them?" They said, "Do you want to do it?" I said, "Well, yes, I do. And I don't want your money because I want to own the intellectual property. I want to create. I want to write a book." And it just became this series of yes. I mean, not everyone agreed to talk to me, but I have realized that I got yeses from the right people.
like who?
Ultimately, I want to look for the best in people. And
Yeah.
I've done like 300 interviews, and only one out of the 300 was a disappointment to me. And even that one, I understand the life circumstances that person was going through that caused that. When
Mm.
people understand they're going to talk to somebody who's looking for the best in people, they tend to make sure they got some best to show. So
Yeah.
that's how I think I've really done really well. But I was doing it, and all of a sudden, I'm hooking up with all these people and these C-suite retirees who are phenomenal, and celebrities and actors and musicians and artists and thought leaders and General Barry McCaffrey. I mean, I knew virtually nothing about the military. I've never lived in the military, and I'm talking to a four-star general, a retired four-star general, and to constantly try to stretch myself by talking to people who do things I don't do.
Right, right. And I have to just say real quick how you said you wanted to create a position for yourself. You went to the place where you wanted to work with, not for, but independently. And you kind of you did
I
create
did.
your own job. You
I did.
created your own stage. I want people to really hear that because so many people sit around waiting for that job interview or waiting for that yes, we'll hire you. And you said, hey, I want to do this. Here's where I want to go. Let me give it to them. I don't want the money. I want the intellectual property. And gosh, and what you did with it is also magical. Tell
Well,
us a little bit about some of these interviews you did. And I hear you talking about how you're friends with, and that's really key. You have made friends with the Pat Benatars, Erin Brockovich, Emily Post, all these cool people. You didn't just interview them and they were gone. You developed relationships. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, and with Emily Post being dead, that was a really tricky, friendship to get pulled together. That was that one was more difficult, that death thing. Peggy Post, the great
Oh,
granddaughter-in-law, I
God.
had to do that. I had to do that. Backing up very quickly to add to what you said before, though, I always wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
That's what I wanted to do. That is still what I want to do, and that's still what I think I am. I am a teacher, and what I ultimately did was build my own education platform through what I write, through what I publish, and through the Jones.show podcast. I was never a teacher in any sort of traditional school system, but now I am a teacher. I'm a teacher every time I step on stage to teach these audiences about communication, about creativity, about storytelling, about thinking on your feet, the different seminars that I give. I'm a teacher. And so
Really
I get
are.
to do that. You know, I'll tell there's a word that a friend of mine and I have called stick-to-itiveness.
Okay.
I'll get into this. So I have story. This should not surprise you.
No, I love your stories.
I'm not sure if you may not have heard this one. So my story, it is about Miss Brockovich, who is a real person.
Yes,
Erin
she is. Love her.
Very, very much a real person, very dear to me. I found out she was coming to town, to Naples, Florida, where I lived at the time. And that movie from 2000 wins Julia Roberts an Oscar. I'm obsessed with the movie. I'm obsessed with Erin Brockovich. You know, I host or I'm interviewing at that time for the business column, but that became the first book. And how can I not have her? I was like, I will have Erin Brockovich in my book. So I sent an email. I get nothing. 3 weeks later, I don't hound her. I send another email. I get nothing. Then I actually sent an inquiry in through her website. I got nothing. And you know what, Aurea? I was about to give up.
Wow.
Give up. And I used, sometimes you do have to make a decision that the time I'm spending is not worth what I will get from that. But I was about to give up because I just wasn't getting anywhere. But then I thought back to that movie. I thought to Erin, to what she did, what the movie was about, what the plot was. My son's a photographer and videographer, and I asked him to take a photo of me, and he did. I emailed her this photo, and it said,
I love that.
Erin Brockovich does not give up easily either.
That's classic.
1 minute later, I heard from my new BFF, and she has been a guiding light to me for 10 years. She is so special to me. She is worthy of all your love. She is worthy of all your admiration. I can't even begin to tell you how much we all need those people in our lives we can go to, that we can trust, that we can ask advice for, that we can ask for support from and provide support to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just lucky that one of mine is Erin Brockovich. But to your point, I do have Peggy Post from the Emily Post Institute. I do have Susan Bennett, the original voice of SIRI. SIRI, announcer for my podcast, Jones.show.
How did you meet her?
Pardon me?
How did you meet her? Just from the same article?
Oh, same way. I just found out that she was speaking. Somebody in Naples knew her, and I called her, and we set it up, and you just get along.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. You just to get along. Lisa Guerrero from Inside Edition is very special to me. Ginger Z from ABC News is
I love Ginger.
Rita Rudner, comedian Rita Rudner, has done the show 3 times. She does it every season. She's a regular now. You just hit it off with some people, but what is so fascinating to me is I've got this list of power women. There was not a man in that group that I
was noticing, and all these women, there was a couple of men in there, Brian Boitano and stuff.
Yes, I interviewed men and women, but as far as this sort of core group that's kind of always there for me, you know, it's really this group of women. Now, I will tell you the Pat Benatar story.
Yes, please do.
You've heard this one.
No, I think I might have, but tell me again, because I love your stories, and I love you're a collector of friends. That happens to me too. We meet these people, now we're friends for life. Because you know you're stuck with me now for life, so just add me to your list.
Well, no, I agree with you. I love the fact that you're part of my week. I mean, if I did not follow you on Clubhouse, it would not be the same. It would quite literally not be the same. So
right back at you.
We're going to flash back to 1982. I'm in college at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, where I now live again. 39 years later, I've moved back to my hometown of Missouri. And for work, I was doing singing telegrams. That cannot surprise you.
No, it doesn't. I remember those. I used to do those too. Oh my God.
Yeah. It cannot surprise you that I did singing telegrams for money. I was a chicken. I was Prince Charming. I was a flasher. That's another story altogether.
Cinderella.
I wanted to meet Pat Benatar. She was going to do a concert in my hometown, and I arranged it through legitimate channels. Those people at the university where they're hosting her. I got backstage. We took 6 dozen balloons. I bounced her up and down on my knee. I was dressed as Prince Charming. Oh, I do. I have it. I do have it.
I got to see this. Oh my gosh. Oh my.
I'm older.
Recognize her. I don't recognize you. Look at you, little youngin.
So
That's
I go backstage. I go into full on performer mode. I sing Hit Me With Your Best Shot. I've rewritten the lyrics to Welcome Her to Columbia. 33 years later, I was seated across from her in Naples, getting ready to interview her and say, did anyone share with you our backstory? And she said, no, no one told me. They made it a surprise. I slid a copy of the telegram to her and the photo to her. And she said to me, I don't just remember the telegram, I remember you.
Oh.
She changed my life
Oh.
because she was so kind to me and so welcoming and so gracious. I had said to her in 82, I had 2 copies of the telegram. I said, Patricia, if you don't sign my copy of the telegram, nobody in the kingdom is going to believe I was here. She says to me, I will sign your copy if you sign mine.
Oh.
That's classy. Then I say, Patricia, they took away the camera. Would it be possible for us to get a photo together? And we get this photo together. Literally, I'm a junior in college at this point in time, and I didn't stop smiling for 6 months. And she made me believe in myself accidentally, just through being herself. And yeah, we stay in touch now that we reconnected 7, 8 years ago, we do stay in touch, and I go see her she's just profoundly special to me as a human being. I love her music, but I love her humanity more.
Good people attract good people. And most people that do podcasts or television shows or interviews, they go through all the line of bringing people on the show, whatever, and those connections are never made. It's a job. They do good job. They do good interviews, but then their life is busy and they move on. And the fact that you connect with people is one thing that I love to do as well. There's so many people on my show that we're still friends to this day. Not Pat Benatar or anybody big like Erin Brockovich, but just that collecting of the friendships and being a good friend helps you make good friends. And you really are that person. They want you in their life just as much as you're happy there and you're there in your life as well.
I tell them, I say, I don't interview, I adopt.
Oh, I like that.
Well, no, and it's true, because once you're in my heart, you really are there. And I will promote, and have proven that I will promote any product or project that Erin has, Pat has, anybody that's really come into my life through this. I will always follow them. I will always pay attention. I will always do what I can do to share. I will share with you now. I was very fortunate that I got to interview Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley and Suzanne Summers.
Oh, Suzanne, yes, you tell us about Suzanne. I've always loved her from afar. Yeah. When I had cancer, and she wrote her book about taking out sugar in her Suzanne Summers diet, and I remember she went alternative and didn't finish everything the doctor said, and she was determined to do this healthy. And she was just really a mentor to me from afar, from her books on her stand with being healthy to your body. And I've just been praying for ever since. And boy, she just did amazing 25 years later with that cancer. Just tell us anything you want about Suzanne Summers. I think all of us.
When I found out both of them, when I found out Cindy passed away, it was a shock. When I found out Suzanne had passed away, it was a shock. They were in their mid-70s. They were both too young. I immediately rushed for my show, because on my show, they're alive.
Yeah.
What's
your show? Tell everybody the name of your show.
Jones.show, the podcast Jones.show.
Jones.show.
Immediately, it's literally www.jones.show, or search Jones.show on your favorite podcast app. But
of course,
I hear they've passed. I'm in such a state of shock. I run to listen to my show with them because they're live, because I don't know what to do. What surprised me was that I was getting condolences. People who knew me and my work knew I hurt. They knew I cared. And they were sending me notes. And I thought, well, I don't know them that well. I know them, and I spent some time with them, and I think I made an impression. And Suzanne and I had tweeted some. And Cindy Williams and I talked a little bit to her assistant since then. We'd been in touch a little bit. I'd sent them copies of Ruby, my book, when they came out, and things like that. But then I realized the reason that I was getting the condolences was because those people hurt too.
Yeah.
And they were reaching out to me because I knew her, because they didn't have necessarily the ability to reach out to the families of two women who were very, very important to those of us growing up in the 70s,
Yeah.
especially.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me till this weekend to figure that out. But if I can be the sounding board for your pain over losing something from your childhood, I'll be that, and I will gladly be that. And I will gladly continue to support and promote these women and their memories and their legacies forever. They mean the world to me.
Well, since you were so close with them, I would love you to share maybe a favorite memory. Both those ladies were smart, such great actresses. Both made us laugh like through the 70s. I mean, they just gave us those belly laughs, as well as they were smart businesswomen as well. Tell us a couple of stories about those two women that maybe we would enjoy to know about that we're not seeing or hearing anywhere else.
Well, I didn't spend as much time with them. I will say that what was funny to me is that Cindy was sort of naughty flirtatious, and I was not expecting funny naughty flirtatious. Shirley Feeney, I was expecting some variation of Shirley Feeney. Didn't happen, which so she kind of got me, and she knew she got me, so it was pretty
I love
funny.
that.
But the thing that people don't realize, and I'm an actor and you're an actress and you know this, for Suzanne Summers to play Chrissy Snow that effectively, do you know how smart an actor or actress has to be that great at being dumb?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta really, really be on the ball to figure out how to process that and get the laugh out of. Ugh. And this comes from a person who specialized in stupid people. So I'm giving myself, I guess, a little bit of a pat on the back. But I played a lot of villains and a lot of really stupid people. And I had said that to Suzanne. She's just so smart.
Mm-hmm.
She's insanely smart. I will go on to say Stephanie Powers from Heart to Heart, who I
Yeah.
talked to this year, speaks 5 languages.
Does she really?
I don't know whether I would have had the nerve, and I say that, but as soon as a guest makes me feel uncomfortable, I say yes, because I have to put myself in a situation. Stephanie Powers is so smart that I think I would have gone in more intimidated. I didn't know she was as smart as she was. She's brilliant.
Wow.
She's amazing. She's amazing. And just because someone is known for one television show or acting,
Right.
their passion, what's important to them, so often, yeah, they're usually happy and thrilled that they had that experience on that TV show or for that primary thing they're known for, but they usually have another passion, and I like to explore that.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Lewis from Blackish
Mm-hmm.
wanted to discuss Black History Month with me. I have rarely been so moved as I was talking to Jennifer Lewis about Black History Month. I rarely felt so honored. I have rarely had a guest. I have a lot of people cry for me. Don't know why. People cry on my show. Don't know why. They do. They do. They cry on the show. Dog the Bounty Hunter cried on my show. So, I mean, dog cried. But the emotions ran so high with Jennifer that I was gasping for breath. And I consider myself to be so lucky. I'm so lucky, but you know what? I have to say this. Okay, we're name dropping and I'm talking about all these famous people. You can have these experiences with your next door neighbor. You can have these experiences with your children. You can have these experiences with anyone in your life if you allow yourself to listen and to let them tell you their story. Because what's most profoundly impactful to me about Suzanne Summers is not Three's Company. It's her intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it to see them only through one lens, to see anyone through a single lens as they wrote this book, they starred in this film, they do this for a living. I don't care what that one lens is. I'm constantly pigeonholed. Well, people think, oh, well, he's a writer. That's what he does. He's a speaker. That's what he does. And he's a podcaster. That's what he does. And that's all they want to allow you to do. We don't. No. People don't get to do that to us, but we can't do that to other people either.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love what you said that there. You can have these same relationships, just your person next door, your friends, your family. That's what it's all about. Being a good friend, having a good friend, listening and finding those so many depths to all of us that most people don't take the time to find out because they don't ask questions. And you and I have that privilege of this is what we do all the time is we're used to asking questions because we're inquisitive for one thing. And
Privilege.
privilege, yes.
Privilege. Yeah.
So awesome to do that and get to know people that way. That if people would only do that in their daily walk of life, and how many of us don't even know our neighbors, that there could be so many people around us and we don't even know who's in our community. So I think it's time we also get to know people that are right around us, and the people we meet in the grocery store, and that, at our children's schools or wherever, our dog groomers. When was the last time, because you and I, we have dogs. When was the last time and you and I do this, but how many people really get to know that person, your dog groomers, and the people that you just normally drop something off, or you drop your dog off or your clothes off at the cleaners, and you don't know who they are. They could be the most
Naples, Florida. I had to go do my goodbye rounds to my hygienist and my Laura, the waitress at Skillets, my restaurant, my breakfast restaurant, and my Walmart pharmacy people. I took pictures with all of them, and I was just hurting so much that I had all these people that had taken care of me as a customer in such a wonderful way, and I felt a real sense of loss. Laura from Skillets, I just texted her this weekend. I felt a real sense of loss. But everyone has a story, and everyone's story is worth listening to, and everyone's story deserves to be told. And you don't have to be, I can name drop for days. I can keep going. But I tell you, my sister Paula has said her favorite shows on Jones Show that I do are when I talk about somebody she's never heard of.
That's great. That's great. Well, since you're such a great storyteller, you've got this amazing podcast, and you've got this such rich past, and I love your tenacity. I love you don't give up, just like Erin Brockovich. I just love how you found a way and made a way. Most people do give up right before they get to the gold because they just can't knock on the door anymore. But instead of keep knocking and doing it the same way, you found a different way to stand out. And we're always talking about that and Get Celebritized, how to stand out, how to do something a little different to get the result you want. And you did that. Perfect example. So tell me now what you're doing to help businesses now. Are you still, can people still hire you to tell their stories, to do marketing, branding? Tell us a little bit about what you do for others so people can tap into you and put your website back up here now.
Well, no, I'm still somebody. I will still tell stories. I will write for people. I will create scripts for people. I will help them tell that story. I work with a nonprofit foundation known as the Immokalee Foundation, IMMOKALEE, the Immokalee Foundation. Immokalee, Florida is located 35 miles outside of Naples, Florida, which is home to the second wealthiest zip code in the country. Wow. And these children are their parents mostly work in the fields at poverty level.
Wow.
And this organization, this 32-year-old organization, puts these kids into college and provides other services to get them post-secondary education. It's just extraordinary. It is such an honor every time I get to tell a story, an interview, and chat with somebody in one of those families and tell their story. It's very special because what they had to do to go to college, very different from what Randy Jones had to do. I went because Dad said you're going. I never appreciated it the way these kids do. I do healthcare, right? I work with a healthcare organization. I've helped people launch their books. Once again, it's all about telling the story. Am I writing a script? Are we creating a video? I've had people talk to me, been discussions now to write books with other people. And actually write with them. And I just love it. I will say I will only do something if I feel it here. I don't do anything for money. I like money and I like to get paid. Let's clarify that.
You have to love it too.
You
can't be bought. You have to love it. You have to have a passion for it. And then it's fine to get paid.
You're taking money and you're not being responsible with them. Because if you do not believe in them, and if you don't believe in them, you can't possibly do the job. I'm very lucky that I can honestly say that everything I do professionally, and I'm 61 with no goal to retire, because what would I do? I live to create. That's my world. I want to create. I am 61 and everything I do professionally helps someone else. Everything.
You're a servant. I love it.
It's a wonderful, wonderful way to live. If I have any frustration, I want to do more. The more people hear Jones.show, the podcast, and it's actually JONES.SHOW. It's pronounced Jones.show, but it's like www.jones.show. So you spelled out the dot.
Oh, okay. That's because it was on my sheet like that. That's weird. Okay.
So, but it's pronounced Jones Show, but it's actually like the same as that. It's not.
Jones Show.
Jones Dutch. How many times have I said the brand? See, this is my clever way of making sure I said Jones Dutch Show. There you go. There you go.
I thought it was kind of funny, but you have such a great sense of humor, so I thought that was a play on words.
It does sound like something I would do. Yeah, it does sound like something I would do.
I love
the more
that.
people listen to that and share that, the more people I can help.
Absolutely.
The more people, the more times I get on a stage and get to tell my stories and actually support, because I customize every time I'm on stage. I customize my message to the needs of that organization. People say they do it. I really do it. And I've seen a lot of speakers who don't do it. They get, and I won't call out names, but they do the same presentation everywhere you go. And I don't. I actually do talk to the people organizing, saying, what's your age range? Because I have talked to high school kids and I've talked to people in their 80s. I have done the full range. And that's not the same presentation. And you have to focus on what's most important, the goals of that organization. There is nothing I love more. Well, I love doing the interviews. I love preparing for the interviews. I love this. You know, I love this. I love this time with you because I'm so lucky.
No.
And I get to share it. I get to tell people just how lucky I am. To my stick-to-itiveness, which to finish that from before, that was mine and Erin Brockovich's word. She said, when she wrote me back, she said, I love your stick-to-itiveness. You have stick-to-itiveness. So Erin and I have a word, stick-to-itiveness, and it's a real word.
I love that. And I love you're such an example, Randy, for stick-to-itiveness and making it happen, and all for the right causes, and shining I have my Limelight Network, shining the limelight on great people doing great things. And you're doing that too. You're telling great stories for great causes, for great businesses, for great nonprofits, which you know is my passion, to help as many nonprofits before I take my last breath as I can. I'm a domestic violence and cancer thriver. And it just got me started on wanting to tell stories about nonprofits because they're heroes in my eyes. And I want to share that with others because they're trying so hard to make a difference in whatever their passion is. So that's why I love that. So tell me a little bit about like your favorite keynotes, because you talk about a lot of different keynote topics. What's one of your favorite keynote presentations to give and why?
Okay, I'm going to back up and finish a question from before, because I do that. I don't follow the rules. I'm naughty. And then I'm going to answer your favorite keynote thing. I want to say to you, we're touching upon something I think is really important. I want to make a point about. How do you distinguish yourself? When people say to me, who are your competitors? I have none. There's only, I'm it. I'm the only me. There might be other people that intersect my space. There's other funny speakers. There's other people who write well, that are engaging, but there's only one me. And I believe that, and I don't say that arrogantly, but there's only one Aurea. There's only one of any person listening to this. So do you, and people who are trying to decide whether to buy you love to ask about your competitors. Well, we really don't have them. We may do some similar services, but I stand by the fact that I am the only me. Okay. Now to answer your other question, I cheated. I bounced around all over the place because that's how.
I'm just impressed you can keep track. I'm like, it's really easy to lose track of thought.
You have to keep notes when you're talking to me. Like, where did he go now? Okay. Let's say I really focus the keynotes on listening. The fact that I was not a good listener because I was always the storyteller who had the spotlight on me, and I always felt like I needed to perform. So all of this happened because I felt like I needed to teach myself to learn to listen. True story. So I do a portion of these with a focus on the advantages of listening. I love creative people. So I love to do include improv in certain situations where it's appropriate. I love creative thinking and helping people talk about creative thinking and different tools and what I've learned from people about creativity. But the one I've chosen to answer for you is what I would call the importance of importance. And I didn't say that. I was very fortunate. I met a gentleman named Jeffrey Gitomer, a Hall of Fame speaker himself, the sales god of the country. He's brilliant. And when I talked to him many years ago about what I was all about, he said, you're about the importance of importance. But it still took me years to understand what that even meant.
Wow.
It is helping people understand their importance. If there's one thing I learned in Naples, Florida, I learned how to age, because I learned that people need to matter.
They do.
They need to feel important. They need to feel relevant. They need to feel valued. It's all variations on the word important.
Right.
But that is the fundamental need that I found in almost everyone. Some people don't. They do kind of disappear. But I believe that the majority of people need to matter. And I lived in a very wealthy community, and money didn't seem to have anything to do with whether or not that person had that sense of importance. So when I dissect my list of people to tell my stories, I look at the different ways that people have taught me about importance. And another thing, who I kind of already touched upon it, is to understand what is important to other people. Not just that Aurea needs to feel relevant and important and valued. You do, so do I. I fully admit it. But when I focus my time as an interviewer and a podcast on really understanding what's important to my guests, I really win. I really win. Ginger Z from ABC News, I can talk to her about weather a lot, but mental health is going to get her going.
Wow. Did you meet her by being in Naples and doing that?
Yeah.
Everybody goes to Naples?
Yeah. No, Naples is really pretty great. No, Naples, there wasn't anybody else in that town doing what I was doing. So I was getting a lot of yeses, but yes, I absolutely did meet her in person.
Find your niche, you know?
Yes, I did.
You're an example of that. Find your niche. You know, you really just kind of change your whole life. You change your whole circle, and look at all these wonderful, wonderful friends and stories you've collected and built your own business around. I just love that. And your passion for it is just overflowing. I mean, this is a different interview than I've ever done, where you're just passion for friends and caring, and everybody has that. But we're not even really talking business. We're sharing stories on how you wanted to do something, you made it happen, and now you've got all these amazing friends in your life that you just have a passion for, again, making people feel special. And I remember when I worked with Mary Kay Ash, she's told us the same thing all those years. Everybody wears an invisible sign, make me feel special. And she was right. And if you live our lives like that, and if you can build your business and your world around making people feel special, you have such a blessed life.
I do. And then you look at another example, a gentleman named Bob Berg, who you may or may not have heard of, who's written this ridiculously successful book called The Go-Giver. It's a whole Go-Giver series.
I need to get that. You're like the fifth person that told me about that book, and I've got to get it.
It is the greatest, and it's about building yourself up based on what you do for other people. And let me tell you, all of my experiences with him, I called him one day and I gave him examples. I said, "Do you know that you live this? That you really live this?" And I cited A, B, C, D, E. These are different things you've done where you have given to me as part of this process of us working together, with him being on my show. He lives it. But it's the most fascinating thing to be, I look at, the different people that I've talked to in the last year. Wayne Smith, again, somebody my sister, Paula, didn't know. Wayne Smith was oh my God, he was in Vietnam and a prisoner of war. Why can't I come up with those words? He was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 6 years.
Wow.
And I met him in Naples. And when I'm sitting across from somebody who was served in that capacity and was with McCain, he was at what they would call the Hanoi Hilton with McCain.
Yeah.
That's something I couldn't even imagine. There's a gentleman, Mr. Green from Florida, Gulf Coast University. He's the greeter at the gate when you go in. And he's the nicest, kindest person, Mr. Green. And I realized he's the only interview I did that I made my kids go with me, because I wanted that to be, because he was a intelligent Black man with something to share. And it is the only time that I can recall ever having a discussion with someone of color who lived through segregation. Be that good or bad? I don't know if that's good or bad.
Right.
But when I have a chance to expose my children, but then college age children, they went. No, I didn't
Right.
use them. They were more than happy to go to this extraordinarily special man and his stories. And he works greeting people that enter the campus of Florida Gulf Coast University.
Well, I'm
He's
gonna ask
one of
you,
my favorite people ever.
then I'm gonna ask you this question because I know we're running out of time a little bit, but I know that you recently moved all the way across country to go back home. With Florida being so rich in all of this, and you really had cornered the market of the market you wanted to be in, is and I want people to know this because many times people have to move or they have to pivot, whether it's by choice or not by choice. Just talk to us just a little bit about, did you want to move, but you did move, and how you're now continuing on with your business and your career and your passion completely across the country,
I went
not
from
in that magical place of Naples anymore.
I went from Florida to Missouri. It's my hometown of Columbia. You know what? Florida didn't have my 92-year-old father. They just didn't have him, and Missouri did. And I thought this is an opportunity, and this is an opportunity to. It's home, but it's not because it's 2 or 3 times the size. You really can't go wrong in a college town. You really can't because you're still exposed to a lot of different thoughts and people and thought processes and creative. I mean, there's creative outlets. It's wonderful. My daughter works for the University of Missouri. She was raised in Northern Virginia outside of DC, but always loved my hometown and had already moved back here.
So your family there, so that helps. Okay.
Yeah, it was family, but you know what? Look, what we've not met, but we know each other. This is how I can conduct my interviews. Is I do it online. It's not the same. I mean, I think you and I would agree. If we were in a studio together,
Mm-hmm.
you'd have a lot more fun and you'd have that extra connection and everything.
Sure,
I
sure.
do love the studio, but like I said, Florida didn't have 92-year-old Ken Jones, and Missouri does.
Putting family first is so admirable. And I just love that about you too. You're true to other people and you're true to your friends, but family comes first. And you made a major move because I remember, we were talking on Clubhouse all this time that you were getting ready to move, getting ready. Then when you left and you were gone, you were on the road. And, we kind of went on that journey with you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to find it. It's because of family. There's no better reason to do anything than your family. And you will have no problem, doing what it is you want to do right anywhere. We could plop you anywhere in the world and you would get the job done and you would keep on keeping on. And everybody needs that type of stick-to-itiveness and that persistence. Okay, drop me wherever you want. I'll still do what I'm supposed to be doing.
I would love to be plopped in a different country. We pursued that. I looked at that and I thought, what countries could benefit from a storyteller coming into their community and telling stories about what it's like to be there and talking to the people who live there to create that content to send it out into the world for PR for that country. What country would benefit from that?
Have you ever been out of the country?
I would still do that. Well, I would still do that. Let's say, we've still got 92-year-old Ken Jones that I don't want to leave. So maybe when I'm 92 and I'm available, I would still do that. So, but no, I mean, I think that I have looked into that before.
Okay. Have you been out of the country yet and told stories out of the country?
You know what? I have not.
I'm not the only one that hasn't been out abroad. I
have not had that opportunity yet, and I'm really looking forward to having that opportunity. So
wonderful. Well, I have 2 more questions for you as we wrap up, and I hate that we have to wrap up, but we're going to Zoom more often. So, we'll just take this offline, as we say. Okay. But Randy, two questions. One, where do you go from here? You've made this move. What is your next step? And how would you like people that are listening and learning all these fascinating stories about you and what you do, storytelling, keynote speaking? Tell us about what's next. How would you like them to engage with you? Should they feel this connection? Then I'm going to ask you my final question.
Okay. So I'm going to try. I have a story and I'm going to try to make it brief enough to be able to ask the story and still get to your final question.
Okay.
Actually, I can doubt myself and I have doubted myself. I had said to a gentleman named Peter Thomas, who, if you listen to the old Forensic Files, that's his voice. He was a narrator in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He was American Express, Don't Leave Home Without It. I mean, he was the voice. He was the voice. If you listen to Peter Thomas, you look him up, you go, the man narrated my childhood. You'll know him.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said to Peter, lived in Naples, I said, I don't have the right voice for radio. He told me I was wrong. And took me to his house to work with me, a little Tuesdays with Maury thing, a Wednesdays with Peter thing, and now I have a podcast. I was sharing with a friend of mine from a little movie called Dirty Dancing. I know. Cynthia Rhodes, who played Penny,
Okay.
was the professional dancer
Mm-hmm.
who retired in the early 90s to raise her children. I respect her and admire her tremendously for making that choice because she never looked back. I met her briefly. I got to spend some time with her. And I'd said I shouldn't write fiction. She disagreed with me and she told me I was just wrong. She just was very matter of fact, you're wrong. Within 2 days, I had a plot for a fiction book inspired by the different people that I had met. And this came out last year. Look, I just whipped that into there. Ruby.
Ruby, I love it. Your first fiction book.
Fiction book. Ruby, Magic Comes from the Heart, was something that I was inspired by Cynthia Rhodes from Dirty Dancing. The character of Cynthia is not her story, but it's inspired by who she is as a person to me. And I'm having some pretty meaningful discussions with producers about a film version of this. And this is definitely a direction that means so much to me because I can reach a lot of people with a feel-good holiday story.
Oh, yes.
And Ruby is there's really virtually nothing I would even change about it. It's short, it's an easy read, but it was discovered by Mark Victor Hansen from Chicken Soup for the Soul.
I love him.
Was discovered. I mean, he just happened to ask me, are you interested in fiction? I said, well, as a matter of fact, a few years ago, I started this book and I just haven't finished it. He said, can we read it? They read it. Within a week, we had an agreement for him to publish the book and it came out. And now, I would love to do more of that. The thing is, I want to do everything.
How do you choose?
And how do you choose? And it is tough. And I don't really have the answer to that other than I choose to continue to create, not to retire. My father was 66 and called me when I was 35 and said to me, he'd retired at 65 and he called in and he told me when I was 30, he said, this retirement thing won't work for you. Don't, you're never gonna, it's not gonna work for you. He remembers saying it and he was right. I can't imagine living in a world where I'm not contributing, where I'm not creating. So.
One of my favorite celebrities of all time, because we're both huge animal lovers, and I just love this woman. She's recently passed away. You will know exactly what I'm talking about. Is Betty White, and she didn't know the word retire. She was doing what hot in Cleveland.
Hot in Cleveland was great. Oh, I love Hot in Cleveland. Yeah,
such a good one. But kept on keeping on way into like probably early 90s, hosting Saturday Night Live, all that, and kissing grizzly bears. I kiss bears too. I mean, well into when she's 90-something years old, feeding a cupcake to a grizzly bear. Not retiring. And I just always say I want to be like Betty White when I grow up because I just love what a beautiful long career, never stopped, always just another brilliant comedian, so talented. And she didn't stop at 65. She was just getting started. So keep on keeping on as long as we want to is a lesson we can all learn. Just keep on keeping on until you don't want to anymore because we all have things to give, and you can retire and still be living a fabulous life. That's fine too. But if you love what you do, there's no time you have to stop. So I'm so glad we're not all forced to stop at 65. We're still
and I'm so glad that I kept evolving because this all for me, the interviews that led to the first book, that led to the podcast, that led to the second book started when I was 47.
There you go. I didn't win my Emmy until I was 48. I was 48 when I won my Emmy, and I was 60 when I donned the TEDx stage. So hey, we don't even get started until we're 40.
Yeah, no. I mean, Janet Ivanovich is, a huge writer, is a friend of mine and is featured in my book. And she was when I started, I think she was 50 when the first Stephanie Plum novel was published, and she's about to publish number 30. Stephanie Plum number 30. And I believe she was 50 when the first one was done. I mean, it's
the list a mile long. People didn't even get started. I mean,
the limitations are what we put on ourselves.
Exactly. Another one.
And what hurdles we're willing to jump to get past those limitations people put in front of us. It's
absolutely. And I like to teach our next generation too. Just keep on going until you don't want to anymore. Another one of my mentors, of course, is Mary Kay Ash. She didn't even start Mary Kay Cosmetics, which just turned 60 years old as a company this year. She didn't start it until she was 45. And back in the day, most women were way over their prime at 45 back in 1960. 2, I think it was. I mean, so just I love people that break barriers.
Emily Post wrote Emily Post's Etiquette in 1922, 101 years ago, when she was 50. Emily
Wow.
Post had
Wow.
her major, huge, massive publishing break
I didn't realize
50.
I didn't realize it was that early. Here I am saying you're friends with Emily Post. I'm like, I did not realize she was that far along. I knew she was passed away, but I didn't know it. Wow, it was back in the 20s because we all know Emily Post. We all know the Etiquette. I wasn't aware of when it was and when she
The family's
actually
done.
was.
I do encourage people to look for the Emily Post Institute online,
Yes.
because the family has done a beautiful job at maintaining her legacy and adding to it and updating it as appropriate. And I love the Post family. I love that family.
You talk about them often. Randy, you just made the perfect segue to my very last question. And it's very close to my heart. And it has become a part of my life. My television show where I won these awards for was telling stories of nonprofits and good people making the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called Live Your Legacy TV. Then I went on and did summits to bring businesses and nonprofits, charities together to help each other. And it was called Live Your Legacy Summits. I really believe that we need to live our legacy on purpose and not just leave it to when we pass away, somebody just figuring out what it was. So I want to ask you, what do you want and hope that your legacy is when you take your last breath? What do you want us to remember you most for?
I could say something smart alecky and funny and go for a punchline. And I'm thinking, should I go for the punchline? But I'm not going to. No, I'm not going. No matter what, this is there for my children. No matter what, the books, the recordings, they're all there for my kids and their children. There's a story in my book, Show Me, about a Georgia and Fred that I found photos of, like 8 or 9 photos from the early 1900s. I didn't know who they were. It was a great aunt and great uncle. I did a lot of research to find out what I could find out about them. I had to really struggle. I mean, how many of us know anything about our great grandparents? That's not going to happen with me. No matter what, I have left behind what I believe in, what's important to me, profiles of the people who've influenced me in a positive way. I've left behind something good. And I believe my work's been done to be as evergreen and timeless as possible. Because even though, for example, Show Me came out in 2016, based on interviews starting in 2012, for the most part, they're really very evergreen. What I learned from that person that I shared still applies. So I'm just grateful that have been able to amass a body of work that will live beyond me, if only for 2 very special people named Kevin Jones and Mary Beth Jones.
That is an amazing answer, Randy. So amazing. You're leaving it for your kids, and that's so special. And you really are leaving a amazing legacy. And I know something that I would add to your legacy that your children will remember as well as you were a good friend. You really are that very special friend. You truly care for others. I mean, how many of us really make those connections when we're on Clubhouse and other things, it's business and we're talking, but you really have that heart that comes through, even when we can't see you. So I hope I'm going to put up one more time, people will listen to your podcast because I'm going to go listen to it. I want to get your books. I want autographed books, just saying.
I think we can make that happen. I think we can make that happen.
I think so, because your heart and your passion come through the microphone, even if people can't see you, because that's how I've known you for so long, is on the microphone. And now to see you in person, it just puts that all together, that you're amazing friend, father, husband, and dog owner. Dog owners are the best.
He behaved. Alexander behaved, and you never know. I mean, there was always a chance that Alexander the Airedale was going to hop into the screen. That chance was always there. So,
and I would love that. I have 4 dogs, and so it's another connection we have. Randy, I want to have you back. I would love to have you come back as a regular. Fill us in and keep telling us stories. Keep it up. The Jones.show, the .show. Listen to it on podcast everywhere you find your favorite podcast. Wherever you're listening to this show, get celebritized. Go find Randall. Randall Jones is the RandallKennethJones.com. You can find everything he does. Have him as a keynote speaker, have him as your storyteller, or have him as your friend. If you're lucky enough to have him as your friend, your life will be blessed. Thank you, Randy, so much for your time.
Well, thank you.
Have a great one, everyone. This is Aurea McGarry from Get Celebritized. Hope you have a wonderful day and get out there and earn more, live more, so you can give back more and have stick-to-itiveness.
Yes. Stick-to-itiveness. Yay!
Thank you, Randy. Bye for now.